AI is going to save healthcare, it's going to save education. I did a Pokemon Go map. We knew that every single company had human tasks they needed to do. We kind of view Patreon as the incumbent. Take all these creators and make them tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. I'm most proud of the fact that we've changed creators' entire lives.
So we're in the studio here today with Lucy Guo. Lucy, you are considered one of the most successful women in tech at only 28 years old. Can you give us a little summary about who you are, what you do, and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, I'm in tech. I've really done everything in tech, from engineering to product design to founding a company to VC, angel investing, and now I'm starting a second company. So it's been really exciting. And I got here really just through my childhood, I'd say. I got into engineering pretty early on because I was trying to find ways to make money on the internet and realized that you could sell like in-game items on Neopets, RuneScape, etc. for like real cash on PayPal. So did that and then started building internet marketing tools for people. Built a bunch of websites where like, I wouldn't say it was illegal streaming. What I did was I would find like episodes that were unreleased and then throw on like a play button on top of like an unreleased screen cap, and there'd be ads all over the website. So like there was no piracy involved, but it was tricking people into landing on the website to get ad dollars.
How old were you when you started to realize that you wanted to make money and have your own income?
Yeah, I was getting in trouble in kindergarten for like selling Pokemon cards and colored pencils, etc. I had like my own little in real life business, and I was mowing lawns for money. But it wasn't until second grade that I actually like figured out how to make money on the internet. And this was because my parents took away like my cold hard cash, and I didn't really like it. Like no matter where I hid it, like I could put it inside pages of like a Harry Potter book, and it would disappear. So like, okay, cool. Like none of my hiding places are working. I discovered a thing called PayPal, and then back then you could open up a PayPal account with a Visa debit card. I wasn't able to withdraw the money into a bank, but most sites took PayPal, so I could still buy all the things I wanted.
Obviously now, like this day and age, we're getting more into having money on digital platforms and stuff like that. But you said you were in second grade. So when did you discover that this was something that would be possible for you to achieve?
I think I just was on gaming forums a ton, and I noticed that people were selling like pets, Neopoints, etc. for dollars, and everyone was receiving the money inside PayPal, and that was how you paid. So I was like, okay, cool. How do I open a PayPal account? So I just got curious, and I was like, okay, awesome. This is a way that I can have money digitally that my parents can't touch and steal from me.
So you were in second grade, you learned to code. What did you use to help teach yourself how to code?
And there are tons of online resources out there, but I also remember that I would like go to Fry's Electronics, and I remember there's like an HTML book that was this big or so that I asked my parents to grab, and then there were just tons of resources on like how to do JavaScript, etc. And yeah, just through the internet.
And it was easy for you to understand at such a young age? Like nothing was confusing to you?
I think the way I've always taught like myself to code, and how a lot of other people do, is they take like a piece of sample code and they start editing it, right? And like while you're reading and editing, you like start understanding how it works. That's, I believe, how they teach it in CS schools as well. I don't really remember my CS program too well, but there's so many online resources. Like if someone wanted to learn how to code, I would literally say like, go find, like think of something you want to build, go on GitHub, and then chances are it's already an open source project. And you can just look through the code and try to understand it yourself, modify it, and learn that way.
What did your parents think of all this when you were so young and figuring out how to do it all by yourself?
Yeah, my parents actually put a keylogger on my computer, so they were really upset that I was talking to internet strangers. They're like, it's this dangerous, and I'm like, I'm just trying to build websites, Mom and Dad. But they weren't too happy, and they thought it was distracting me from school because I wasn't like a straight A+ student. I have a few A minuses. Yeah, they weren't the happiest people. And then even when going to college, I would say they initially didn't really want me to do CS. They're like, oh, you should like go study pharmacy because it's easier. I think I would have actually failed out of like a pharma program though, because I can't memorize things for my life, or like I'm really bad at rote memorization. But yeah, like they were just like, and then you can work 3 days a week and like life will be comfortable and you'll make enough money. And I was like, but that's not interesting to me.
Right.
So we got into a huge fight about it.
It's interesting that you kept the same interest from such a young age all the way until now, because I know so many people throughout their lives change what they want to do even once they're in college. Take us through a little bit of like your journey of thinking about what you wanted to do in the long term. Did you know in second grade that this was something you wanted to continue to do?
I would actually say I didn't know. I really wanted to study chemical engineering, which is totally different. It was probably just because my AP Chem teacher was my favorite, or one of my favorites, and I was very good at chemistry. But I always knew, I think I wanted to build a company, and I like building products. So even though I ended up entering Carnegie Mellon with a CS major, I picked up a HCI double major because, and that's human computer interactions for people that don't know, because I just really enjoyed like creating products and design. And I think like during the process of school, and I went to a whole lot of hackathons, I realized that engineering wasn't actually my passion. It was building products, and design was my passion. So in that sense, like, yes, I always knew I wanted to build a company. I didn't really know that like I was going to be programming or designing.
Yeah. Well, I was terrible at chemistry, so that's great that you were one of the. It was so confusing to me. But your parents were both at one point engineers. So why do you think they were so hesitant for you to take on this career that you're now in?
Yeah, so I actually talked to my parents about this, and my parents were, so my mom was the only engineering student in her program, and they were just like, girls weren't made to be engineers. Like, look, your mom was the only one in the program even. Like, they're just genetically not capable, which is a little confusing because it's like, okay, cool, like I have a very, very smart mom, right? Who obviously like studied electrical engineering and got like a scholarship to come to the US to get her, I think she was going for a PhD, but then she had me, so she had to stop it at master's. But yeah, it still blows my mind personally, but I think they were just like looking at it almost from the data standpoint, and they weren't thinking like, oh, maybe it's a funnel. Like to them, it was just like, okay, girls just can't do it.
So even though your mom made a successful career through it, they were still worried about you just because of the way society frames women and stuff. Did you go to college? If so, did you end up finishing college? What did your education look like after high school?
I did go to Carnegie Mellon. I double majored in CS and HCI. I'm 4 classes away from my CS major, and I think like another 2 classes or so for my minor. I'm not too sure, to be honest. So I had like a semester, like 1 to 2 semesters left, depending on like how much I wanted to complete, but I ended up dropping out.
Why did you drop out? Did something else come along? What opportunities were you given?
Yeah, so in high school, I got connected to Thiel Fellowship, and then eventually I reconnected to them, and they're like, hey, you should submit an application. I was like, yeah, why not? I had a lot of projects I could use because I was going to hackathons every single weekend at this point, and it just like, I felt like I was learning more at these hackathons than in school. So when I got the Thiel Fellowship, I was just like, okay, cool, I'm just gonna go and explore the real world. And to me, it wasn't really a risk because I could always go back to school. And I also had job offers lined up already. So I wasn't too worried about as like the worst case scenario.
Of course. How does that work? You know, because a lot of the times jobs nowadays are you need a bachelor's degree in order to start the job. And you were saying that you already had jobs lined up even though you didn't finish school. What kind of job opportunities were you receiving before you decided to take the Thiel Fellowship?
Yeah, I had software engineer job offers, product design job offers from like quite good companies with offer packages I actually can't say out loud. But I will say it's much higher. They were much higher than new grad packages. And what was interesting was that I was being told by recruiters that if I graduated college, like there's kind of like a level 1, level 2, whatever system where they can only give you like a max comp package. But I was just like such, it was such a unique scenario that they didn't have to do that with me. So that was pretty interesting, I thought. But because like I think computer science and product design, they're like very technical jobs, people don't really look at your background. Like if you can pass an interview test, then you're in. The good college like puts your foot in the door, and I had that from just like even being close to finishing. But I think that like if you're a nobody, a lot of these like companies will have programming challenges set up online, and if you complete it, then you're guaranteed an interview.
What are some of your favorite projects that you created before you moved on to scale AI and passes?
I would say I did a Pokemon Go map, and this is actually a thing that YC wanted us to pivot into instead of working on scale. That hit like 5 million users within a week, and all it did was if you like saw a Pokemon, you could like add it to the map, and it was quite crazy actually. Like people were running around using it. My friend was in the middle of nowhere, like in the middle of the country at a wedding, and he was like, yeah, like people are using the Pokemon Go map.
Were you seeing other apps like that at the time, or was this something that you just thought of? off the bat?
Yeah, I think there were maybe 2 or 3 other maps out there. Ours had a really slick app though, so it was getting a lot of downloads. It actually hit, so someone, okay, so there was, I don't know who did this, but someone took our website and just put it in a web view and then launched it as a paid app on the App Store and ended up getting becoming a top 10 paid app or something. It was insane. I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
We could have done that, but it's fine.
So going back to the Thiel Fellowship, that has minted several other millionaires. What would you say is the most important thing that you learned from that experience?
I think your network is your net worth. And what the Thiel Fellowship does is it puts you into a group of very, very smart people. And they might not necessarily have made it in life yet, but then there's tons of other smart people that are older that will want to mentor you. And that's what's really helped because you're the average of the 5 people you're hanging around with most. And everyone thinks you're a prodigy, even though you may not be. And because of that, you get the smartest people in all of Silicon Valley, pouring resources into helping you succeed. Right. And then you also get a head start, right? Where let's say you dropped out and you're 2 years younger than everyone else. That already is quite impressive. To the outsider's eyes, and then people that aren't in tech are oh my God, let me help you, let me invest in you. It's just easier to do things.
Now we're going to move on to a little bit about what you've been creating in the tech world. How old were you when you created Scale AI?
I believe I was 21 when I first started Scale AI.
I know you started it with Alexander. Can you explain to us what that process was like and how you guys decided you wanted to move forward and create this company?
Yeah, definitely. I think while we were both in Quora, we were just hey, let's do YC one of these days. And then when he went back to MIT and then I got poached by Snapchat, we were just building things on the side. I had the itch to start a company again. So first we tried ClassPass for clubbing. That didn't work. And then we were doing this healthcare app, Ava. And then I ended up meeting one of our first investors in LA. And he was just hey, I want to put in $1 million. Around the same time we got into YC. So I ended up only letting him put in, I think it was $100,000. But that ended up being a great investment. He got in at a great grab valuation. So yeah, we did YC, and then during YC, we realized that our healthcare app just wasn't working. But something that we were getting annoyed of was that we were calling doctors on the phone all day, and we were just man, it would be really nice have an API be able to just ping someone to do this for us. And then our roommate was oh, an API for humans, and literally when he said that, I was that sounds controversial as hell. And my whole thing is I think that controversy is what makes things go viral. So I immediately knew that if we launched a product that said API for humans, it would go viral essentially. So we threw up a landing page for that and then launched it on Product Hunt. It was a top 3 product. And then immediately we had VCs reaching out to us asking to invest. We weren't even sure whether to work on it or not though. Our YC partners were trying to get us to work on a Pokemon Go map that I had built a week earlier. But when we got our first term sheet, we decided to stick with the product.
So you just went into a little bit about how you guys decided to create Scale AI. You tried the healthcare and it didn't work out. Was there any other reason why you guys wanted to start Scale AI? I know you mentioned there was a little bit of a gap in the market for pinging these doctors. So how annoying was it?
We knew that every single company had human tasks they needed to do. We weren't actually sure at that point in time what tasks those would be, but we essentially emailed out every single YC company. We're not supposed to do this, but I scraped every single company that went through YC, and then you can through a combination of names, you can figure out the right email. Usually, it's first name, last name at company.com, or first name dot last name, or first name at. But if you're emailing directly the CEO, CTO, whatever, it's always the first name.
Right.
It's very rarely not. So just combine combinations of potential emails and sent it out to every single person, and got some responses back. And Cruise ended up being one of our first larger customers, and that's when we were oh, self-driving cars is actually a huge market. They have a lot of money to spend. So they say that if you find something working, you should double down on it. So we doubled down on that market after that.
Awesome. Do you happen to know what Scale AI is valued at today?
So I know on secondary markets, it's back up to $7.29 billion. Wow. So I know that when Forbes recently did an article, they were valuating it on their own. But generative AI has done very well, and I think that's honestly the future. Right. So yeah, I think that AI is considered hot within the tech market, and it's going to go back up in value.
And are you still making money off of Scale even though you're no longer working there?
Yeah, so the majority of my like net worth is in equity and Scale. So yes and no, it's not liquid, but like it's there.
So you just said that you think AI is
Yeah.
hot, it's going to be the future. What are your current thoughts of AI as a whole?
I think that a lot of people are worried about like AI destroying the world, et cetera. But I really just think it's like how you use it. So like good actors will use AI to empower what they're doing, and bad actors might use AI to attempt to destroy the world. But in general, I think it's like very positive for society.
Right. Do you think there's a way to stop the bad actors before it gets too late, as some people might say?
I think that there's safeguards you could put in place. So yes, in that sense, I think it's going to be more like regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who is worried about AI and is scared of the possibilities of it, harming humans?
Yeah, I would say that we definitely need to figure out like legal regulations, but I think it's just going to be net positive in the world. Like technology has always increased like the economy, lifestyle, et cetera. And I think that AI is like one of those technologies that's really going to make everyone's jobs easier. Like if you think about it, like AI is going to save healthcare, it's going to save education. I think that drivers are going to be killing less people. I think that education is going to be more targeted. And this is something I'm also kind of passionate about, where I believe that all kids can be prodigies if you find out what they love early on enough and teach them to it. Like maybe I'm biased, but I think like the average 5-year-old can do like algebra. So, but like right now in kindergarten, we're just teaching them to like, I don't know, color butterflies. So yeah, like I'm really excited about like that specifically. I think healthcare too, like we're gonna be able to diagnose illnesses sooner. I think it's gonna benefit so much of the world that we should be careful, but I think that we should let the technology like thrive and put safeguards in place.
Right,
Yeah.
because there are some tech leaders right now voicing their concerns over the technology in AI and generative AI. Do you have any concerns for where the future of the technology is headed?
Honestly, I'm not too worried as long as like the right people are putting things in place. And like I think that like new job that's going like a thriving job that will happen is AI ethics, where like people are going to be hired to solve these problems.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm already seeing people posting on LinkedIn, we need experts in AI and stuff like that. So that's what you're referring to in that sense. Got it. Okay. So now we're going to move into a little bit about what you're doing today. So you moved on from Scale and you went on to create passes for creators to connect exclusively with their fans. Can you briefly describe what Passes is as an entire company?
Yeah, as an entire company, I would say like we view creators as small businesses and we want to make them into large businesses. So at the moment, we think that brand deals are going to just like, there's not like brand deals aren't a reliable source of income. So the best way creators can I guess like monetize or like make their living is via their fans. We kind of view Patreon as the incumbent, but we've noticed that like Patreon doesn't necessarily like build community with the fans. Fans need to feel like they're your friend, so we decided that a really good CRM system was the best way to do this. So we've made it really, really easy to like scale personalized interactions, and then from there we're actually working on AI features, obviously, where we're creating AI doubles of creators, so people can like interact with their favorite creator even if they can't afford the like real time. Like you can imagine that it's like $5 a message to like talk to your favorite creator, but it's like 10 cents a message to talk to an AI version, which surprisingly a lot of people are very happy with the AI versions. And then from there we want to like get into brand deals, etc. Because like I kind of see the future as like creators not creating content anymore and selling their likeness instead. So a brand like Celsius, for example, can pay a lot less money for a creator to like take videos or like to generate deepfake videos of a creator holding a Celsius can. And as long as they don't dilute their brand too much by selling it to everyone, everyone should be making more money.
Does it become an issue when fans are talking to an AI replica instead of the human version of the creator?
Yeah, I think it's very important to be 100% transparent. So I think it's an issue if we weren't transparent, but because we are transparent, not an issue at all. If people are playing around with AI chatbots all the time. What I am worried about though is that the technology is going to get very good, and then people are going to create like Chrome extensions or their own side apps or bots to chat as like their real profile. And that might be a mess in the future, like on every single platform, really, because that's when you like start losing trust in the creator. And long term, that's not great for community.
And how do you think we can regulate the technology to make sure something like that doesn't happen?
There is not really a way to do that. Like if any you people are already making, like people are raising money. I know companies have raised several $1 million to specifically create chatbots to pretend to be like a real human and talk to them on like OnlyFans.
Right.
Character AI is doing very well. I think there's definitely a niche for loneliness, like solving loneliness. I think that there's money in that, but like what you need to be careful about is will brands care that you are going a more sexual route, for example? Because like right now, if you're on OnlyFans, you're probably not going to be getting brand deals. And this is a concern that a lot of people have. You can't go on reality TV shows, like Netflix doesn't even want you. You can't be a model, like modeling agencies will drop you, et cetera, et cetera. So it really is like what you're going for, I'd say, because like there's a lot of money to be made still. Like maybe you would end up making like 10 million a year and it doesn't matter that you're not getting brand deals anymore. I think that like for what we're doing, we still think that the money is in like being able to like do UGC content with deepfakes. So it's really like the creator's choice. Right now we've chosen to go like a very non-sexual route, and it seems to be making a lot of money, so yay.
How do you make sure that content through passes isn't going
Yeah.
through the barrier of being sexual? How do you make sure that it's appropriate?
Yeah. So we put every single image through AI and like make sure there's no nudity, etc. There's a lot of like things that are censored. If like you're a guy and you're trying to type something inappropriate, it's not gonna send. Bunch of different
That's
things.
good.
Yeah.
So I know you mentioned a little bit about brand deals and the influencing market. Were there people that were coming to you that were complaining maybe about like brand deals and connecting with fans?
Yeah, so I basically noticed two things. Like when Patreon was a $4 billion company and the product did not focus on like what matters, which is being able to like have that one-to-one feeling of interaction with your fans. I think Twitch actually does this really well where like they like mass scale it, but it feels one-to-one when like, you know, you get a shout out because you tipped. So we totally copy Twitch's live streaming, but it's a little different. The live streaming is actually a big money maker for us. And then I noticed that creators were really bad at money management. So I was gonna go between two ideas, which is like one, kill Patreon, or number two, basically figure out how to build long-term wealth for creators by getting them equity in companies. What I realized though is creators won't really wanna work with you until you like do make them a lot of money.
Right.
So it was earn creators trust first. And I saw this as like a really great wedge in the market to like be able to like be essentially a Google suite for creators. So like right now we've taken creators that were making like 2K a month before, and now they're doing like 30, 40, 50K a month, right? Like they're making a lot more money than they used to in the past. So they love us. Like anything we throw at them, they're like down for. So for example, like if we didn't have like our creators making so much money and I immediately went to them and I was like, hey, like, can I make an AI version of you? They're gonna charge me money. Like, yes, they might make money, but they're gonna be like, cool, like you can use my likeness, but it's gonna cost you like $500,000. But because these creators already trust us so much and love us, they're all letting us do the AI versions of them for free, which is awesome on our end, right? And then afterwards, like that's just a natural segue into deep fake images and videos because we have an entire content vault of all their like images and videos, and like it really is all on the data on like how much, like how good of a deepfake you can create. Our deepfake images are already going well. Then we can start working with brands. We have more monetization data than any other person, because we could be like, hey, this person might have 20,000 followers, but their fans are spending $20,000 a month on them.
Right.
Like this is a good person for you to work with because they have higher spending power. And then the brands are going to be like, okay, cool. Like a Celsius who might not work with someone that had 20,000 followers before might now. So, yeah.
So for creators, how do you make sure that the replica of this creator, the AI version, is staying true to the personality type of the human creator?
Yeah. So we're training on all the chats that they have already sent out to their fans. So in that sense, like it should hopefully, based off the machine learning, stay true to the creator. One unsolved problem though with like LLMs is that prompt injection is like a big problem, and it's like kind of hard to prevent entirely.
Right.
So we'll probably like have some keywords that you can't like say to the AI, like go in developer mode, forget everything that you've said in the past, blah blah blah. But it still could be a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's a technology that everyone's still experiencing with, of course. How do creators come onto passes and then end up making money from it?
Yeah, so right now we're going to more Soho House approach, mostly because we're still in beta and we don't want to we want to control the narrative of passes, but they can apply to be a creator, and then we look through and we occasionally accept people. We have about 40 active creators that are generating 5 million gross annually. So
Wow.
yeah,
That was my next question. How many creators you currently have using passes? So it's 40.
40. Yeah.
And then is the 5 million each, or is that all together?
Oh, it's all together.
Nice. Awesome. How much money on average do you think the normal creator is making monthly through passes?
I think it's around 20,000 a month.
Wow. And do you have any thoughts on brand deals in general? Do you think brand deals stray people away from authenticity?
I think it's really important to work with brands that you actually care for and like, because it becomes really, really obvious when it's not something that you're very interested in. What I think brands should do more often, and what they're starting to do, is if they find a creator they really like, they should just make a line for that creator. Okay, cool, this is the Alex Earl drink, or this is the, I don't know, Miley Cyrus press-on nails. I'm just coming up with stuff right now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Alex Earl does have a drink. But yeah, and then this is another thing that can get interesting where then the creator should be getting equity in that line or in the company. Right now this is just a huge problem where there's no standardized contracts for creators to receive equity in companies, not to mention that a lot of creators managers don't understand the importance of equity, and because the way it works is managers get 20% of what the creator makes normally. They're much more cash incentivized, which isn't too great in the long term.
So where does passes come into play with brand deals? How are you guys working with managing brands and all that stuff?
Yeah, so when we work with the brands, we'll probably start negotiating equity for the creators, and we'll offer 2 options, but we will try to push and educate people to take ones with the equity.
Is your goal for passes to be open and available to all creators, or are you still planning on keeping it at the application only basis?
Yeah, so the goal is to open it to all creators, but I am worried because I'm pretty sure OnlyFans did start off as a porn website, but there are a lot of people that say it didn't and that wasn't their intention. But what generally happens is that if people find a website that's taking a low percentage, we only take 10%, for example, they want to move all their content there, and we don't want it to be known for adult content because it kind of prevents us from executing the long-term vision. That being said, Patreon, 50% of the revenue is for not safe for work, and I think they're able to have not safe for work because they started off with extremely safe for work. So I guess the goal is that if we can have enough niches on there where adult content won't take over, then that's when we would probably allow for it to happen, because I do think that we shouldn't completely block off a whole segment of creators. But my ideal scenario is just kind of like Twitter, where a politician, a president, could be fundraising on the website and interacting with their fans, and a porn star could also be on there, but that's just not possible in where we're at right now.
Right. You're still developing, you're in beta mode, so we got that. What is the benefit for fans if they were to come on and use passes?
They get to talk to your favorite creator. It's if you are a fan DMing your favorite creator, you're probably gonna end up in the other inbox and never get a response. Now, if you tipped $100, you're probably gonna be around the top of their inbox list, and you're most likely going to get a response. 99.9%, and that's exciting for people. You can do one-to-one FaceTime calls, audio calls, you can live stream with them, et cetera, et cetera. It's just really a way for both the creators and fans to have closer relationships. A lot of our music artists, for example, on passes, they'll launch all their music earlier on passes, so their super fans get to get the sneak peek of the music before everyone else.
And essentially, in this day and age, creators are technically celebrities to most people that are using apps and TikTok and are fans of certain influencers.
Impact I want it to have on the creator community is essentially take all these creators and make them tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and actually grow them into large businesses. So I think if you look at the creators are the most successful, if we define success based off of both brand and wealth, The ones that have done the best have created their own companies. Like they created their own drinks, they created their own restaurants, food lines, etc. Like they are entrepreneurs, but most creators aren't thinking of themselves as entrepreneurs today. So we want to take them and actually make them into entrepreneurs. Like you either have a manager who's only getting you cash, or even a manager that's thinking innovatively and like they are helping you start like Mr. Beast restaurant or Feastables, right? Or Prime Drink. You have managers that are like helping you get VC fund like Carry, because now a lot of creators are like investing, which is actually smart because they can easily squeeze into the best deals by just going like, hey, like, I'm Dixie D'Amelio, let me into your fund.
I was going to say that D'Amelios are like the perfect example of Charlie D'Amelio Dunkin' drink, and then they have a footwear company, and they have their own show.
Yeah, and I think the best managers are like really working at this and realize this, where like Mr. Beast's manager, he's very good. He's also a friend, and he was just like, yeah, like I want like to create all my creators like create products because that's the way you actually are successful. And like Mr. Beast realizes this now, which is why he's focusing all his energy on Feastables. But most managers aren't thinking this way for creators. So we kind of want to help them develop their like small business into large businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
So is Passes essentially, if a creator comes onto Passes, are they getting a manager with them at Passes, or does Passes work with the current management that they already have?
Yeah, so we currently work with the current management, and we don't want to replace managers per se, but we want to enhance managers by making their jobs easier, because managers right now are like manually emailing out brands, etc. We can bring that to them, but we also want to help managers understand like why equity, for example, is so important. We'll also like be able to help them negotiate better deals, because right now, like the only monetization data, like brands are guessing based off of like your Instagram like demographics and your views, right? But when you actually have like that monetization data, like, hey, we have like 1,000 fans paying like $10 a month. That's interesting. I would say in 1 year, we really want the deepfake technology to be good enough to actually be used for UGC content and brands. Just because from what I've seen, like creators are just very limited on time. And even with like Passes content, it's like if they sent like if they uploaded one more selfie a day, they could probably double their income. But they're just so limited. And I think that I love my creator friends. The selfies, obviously, like that sounds quick, right?
Yeah.
I realize it takes them another hour to Facetune or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's where like the time consumption is going. So it's like, okay, cool. We could like fix the content issue and like allow them to work on more because of time, or just like make more because of time. That just like frees up a ton. Maybe in a year we'll even be able to like start helping them white label products. We'll probably end up partnering with companies to do that. I think that makes the most sense. But ideally, like by then we'll have like our contract in place that's more standardized and being used around the industry to get like both cash and equity.
Awesome. And what would you say is the response you're getting from fans that are chatting with these AI replicas of humans? Are they okay with it?
Yeah, I think it's a different set of fans, where like there are fans that want to talk to the real human being and like are willing to spend more, and there are fans that like find it novel to talk to like the AI replica, or just like want to get like an AI voice note, for example, and then they're willing to pay less for one. I do think that like it's super important to be transparent that things are AI.
Right.
But yeah, I think that there's a subset of fans that are okay with it, and you see that where like, I mean, AI girlfriends and boyfriends are a huge thing.
So that was so that's, you basically answered that in itself, that people who are okay with AI would be paying less than the actual person.
Yes.
What are you most proud of at Passes so far?
Yeah, I'm most proud of the fact that we've changed creators' entire lives. Like literally we have creators that, like when I say most of our creators came in making 2 to 5K a month and now they're doing 30 to 50K a month, that's like game changing for them. They'll tell us like, wow, like I just made my entire like year's income in this month. Like this is incredible. They're so happy, and like they're able to use that money to like reinvest into like their music careers, for example. We have a lot of influencers like that are also pop stars, EDM artists, etc. And like honestly, touring and making music is really expensive. Having to like collab with another DJ or collab with an artist, like that costs a lot of money as well. I have friends who like sell out 6,000 person shows, and they lose money on tour because touring is just that expensive. So like we're really able to like help them reinvest in themselves and upgrade their lifestyles too.
And are they seeing an increase in fan growth through passes?
Yeah, so they've all said that like their community feels tighter than ever. And the thing is that when you have a community of people that are obsessed with you and they make more noise, like they're the loudest people, right, in the room, people get curious. And then you start turning these like normal fans into super fans too because of all the noise that's happening.
Would you say creators are excited about using passes, and have you, like, how many applications do you have right now that you have to go through and see who you can accept and who you can't accept?
Yeah, we definitely have thousands, which is kind of incredible given like how small we are. I would say like overall, yes. And I think that with the AI hype right now, we have a lot of creators that are very excited. Like I get pinged every single day going like, hey, it's like my AI version's like done because we're doing it one by one to like really train the model on each person. So I'm like, oh no, you're like number like 20 in the line. I'm sorry.
Down the road.
Yeah.
How long do you see passes in beta for?
I'm hoping that we get a beta by the end of year.
Wow.
But we really need it's a very complicated product and we don't have a good onboarding flow. There's a lot you can do with it that other companies don't offer. But because of that, like people aren't setting up their profiles correctly. So what I'm doing right now is I'm manually hopping onto Zoom with every single person and walking them through how to use every single feature. And I'm checking their profiles before they like announce that they're on passes. But that's obviously not scalable. It just hasn't been like a top of our priority list to onboard more people. Like right now, like we just want to make our current creators more money.
Yeah.
So like most creators are making more money every single month, which is like a good metric for us.
Yeah, that's an amazing outlook to have, and it's great that you're wanting to help creators and finding the best scenario for them. What do you have any plans on what you hope to conquer next? Well, actually, before I ask that question, I had one more about Passes. How many employees do you currently have at Passes?
We're 9 full time.
9.
Yeah.
Wow.
Small
okay.
startup, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And what are your, think big picture, Passes 10 years down the line? How many employees do you think that you would have to have?
Honestly, I love running things very lean. So my ideal scenario is like we never really go above 300, but who knows? Everyone always says they run lean, but I've been very good at building fast and running lean. So we'll see.
Do you currently have any passion projects that you're working on?
No, I'm just working on passes. I wish I had time for a passion project.
How many hours a week do you think you have to work right now because of passes?
I don't know. I feel like I'm working 14 to 16-hour days, to be honest.
Wow. Besides passes and scale, do you have any other AI technologies that you really like to use?
I use ChatGPT quite a lot. I would say that like if I'm having a creative block or even if I like get a question, I'm just too lazy to Google, it scraped the internet, right? So it has accurate responses incredibly quick. I just think one important thing to remember is that it really is like just predicting the output of like what you want, right? So like it can start saying ridiculous things, especially if you prompt inject it, where it can be like, okay, cool. Butter is the best structure to like build a building, and then you ask it like how to build a building, it's gonna tell you to use butter.